Entertainment tonight.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. A new CBS News New York Times poll is being made public tonight. It indicates George Bush has widened his lead over Michael Dukakis. This poll is of about 1,300 people who say they are probable voters. It was taken Friday through yesterday. It shows the Bush Quayle ticket with a 13-point lead over Dukakis Benson. The margin of error is said to be 3 points up or down. Our poll indicates Bush is ahead in all regions of the country, though most narrowly in the Northeast and Midwest. Bush leads in all age groups except older Americans. Still underscoring the volatility of the voters, even this close to the election, 25% say they could change their minds before Election Day. And almost two-thirds of the people we poll say they still wish they could have other choices for president. As for the general way the candidates have been campaigning, almost half of those polled say the tone of this presidential campaign has been more negative than any in the past. Mindful of what the polls are saying, the Bush people are celebrating, the Dukakis people are fighting a desperate battle. The candidates were busy tailoring their latest messages out on the campaign trail during the day. Bob Schieffer, traveling with the Bush campaign, begins our coverage.
With a double-digit lead in the polls, you do what George Bush did today in Ohio. Play to the crowds, but play safe and keep your distance from controversy. In Columbus, it was only a veiled reference to charges that his commercials about the Massachusetts furlough program are racist. Instead, he said it is Dukakis' criticism that is stirring up trouble.
And I must say that I have been disturbed as I've witnessed my opponent's campaign over the several past weeks at the increasing appeals to class conflict.
The heavy lifting on defending the ads was left to surrogates.
The governor has been caught with a record and positions that are embarrassing to him. He has tried to fuzz them. He is trying to evade them. The fact is that the data speaks for itself.
Every statement George Bush and I have made about Michael Dukakis' record is accurate and can be documented.
At a huge rally in Akron, meanwhile, Bush hit at Dukakis on another front, denouncing him for now saying that he applauds the invasion of Grenada after he had criticized it in the past.
Where was he 5 years ago? Look, I value freedom and democracy, but I also value the truth. He called the action a misuse of U.S. military power. If that isn't criticism, I don't know what is.
Bush's people say these big crowds show that Dukakis' recent criticism of Bush isn't hurting Bush at all, and may even be helping, since it forces more attention on Dukakis' record. With a big lead in the polls, you can talk like that. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Akron, Ohio.
Dukakis is campaigning long, hard days this week, hitting two themes. First, George Bush lies about my record. Specifically, at Diablo Valley College, about an hour outside San Francisco, Dukakis attacked a Bush ad, calling him soft on defense.
Michael Dukakis has opposed virtually every defense system we developed.
This ad talks about my being against every major weapon systems. That's nonsense.
Dukakis opposed the stealth bomber.
I support the D-5 and the stealth, the advanced cruise missile.
In South Dakota, running mate Lloyd Benson sounded the same theme.
They say Governor Dukakis is opposed to the deployment of the Pershing II missile. And that's a lie. And they know it. So I challenge the Republicans to pull that ad and try the truth instead.
Dukakis' other theme these closing days is economic populism, picturing Bush as the rich folks' candidate.
We're on your side. We're on your side. That's what this election is all about, and that's what the presidency of the United States is all about.
Dukakis staffers were unhappy with today's poll numbers, of course. But usually reliable sources at their Boston headquarters say their own polls show a closer race with some movement toward Dukakis these last few days. The Dukakis people think his attacks on Bush's negative ads have helped, and they hope his heavy use of free television, appearances on talk shows, network and local interviews and the like, will narrow the gap still more. All we can do, one aide said, is fight. We have no choice. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Pleasant Hills, California.
Tonight's CBS News New York Times poll indicates anew how the voting public may be reacting to the negative campaigning tactics in the presidential race. CBS News national affairs correspondent Leslie Stahl looks this evening at the impact on voters of the television ad campaigns of the candidates, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
As a candidate, Michael Dukakis called Boston Harbor an open sewer.
Almost three-quarters of the voters say the candidates have been making unfair charges. Even though the public blames both candidates equally for the negative tone of the campaign, our poll shows that Bush is benefiting more than Dukakis from his campaign commercials. We screened both sides' ads with media consultant Tony Schwartz. His verdict?
Bush's ads are connecting to things people are concerned with. And they're very effective in doing that.
In the poll, 25% say the TV ads are influencing how they're going to vote, and most of those voters say they're supporting Bush.
I think a great deal of credit has to go to the smear abilities of the Bush people.
As governor, Michael Dukakis vetoed mandatory sentences for drug dealers.
The Bush ad, which has had the biggest impact, according to our poll, is the revolving door commercial criticizing Dukakis' furlough program. Why is that a good ad?
Because it's what people know is true.
But the irony is that part of the ad is false.
His revolving door prison policy gave weekend furloughs to first-degree murderers not eligible for parole.
268 murderers did not escape.
Whatever the ad says is accurate. We're not going to put something on the air that's not truthful.
The truth is only 4 first-degree murderers escaped while on parole. The number that appears on the screen as the announcer says first-degree murderers refers not to murderers, but to all furloughed prisoners. The ad helped reverse Bush's image on crime. Before it ran, he was more likely to be seen as weak on the issue. Now 62% think he is tough on crime. Half the voters think Dukakis is not. The mastermind of Bush's advertising is Roger Ailes. He's in control of all Bush's media. He has no counterpart in the Dukakis campaign.
There is no one general. There are 20 advertising people all working in different ends of the campaign.
Dukakis left the Bush attack ads unanswered for 6 weeks. Today, campaign aides are engaged in a round of finger-pointing at who's to blame. Democrats are still urging them to respond to each Bush charge, but they refuse.
We have kept ourselves in this race by not rushing to defend ourselves and waste our resources.
This is the way life should be.
Starting tomorrow, the Dukakis campaign will hit the air with a new series of positive ads designed to leave the viewer feeling good and to get Dukakis back into the race. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, New York.
Mike Dukakis lost a round in court today in his fight against the Reagan-Bush administration's Central America policy. A federal appeals court in Boston has ruled that Governor Dukakis has no legal right to stop the Pentagon from ordering Massachusetts National Guard units to Central America for what are called training exercises. Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, reporter Lynn Brown on a $1 million fine for the Ku Klux Klan. And David Dow on Russians and Americans breaking the ice for a whale of a task.
This hammer is twice as strong as this hammer. Tums EX is twice as strong as Rolaids, so Tums neutralizes twice the stomach acid. Tums EX, twice as strong as Rolaids.
I was a young boy who dreamed of great things, to bring a medal home to my country, and the dream came true. As an athlete, I was determined to do great things. Today, I still am. Now I'm an American citizen, a part of another team, a Dow, that helps to make medical surgery safer. And when this team wins, the whole world wins.
Okay, smile. Dow lets you do great things.
For every investment expert who says the market's going up, an expert says it's going down. If the experts can't be certain, what chance do you have? A much better chance if you invest in Nuveen for steady, tax-free income. Nuveen. It's the long-term investment of certainty in a climate of uncertainty. Nuveen. America's tax-free investments.
For more information, call your broker or financial advisor or 800-372-1500.
Looking for whole wheat total?
Shredded wheat.
You'll need 12 boxes to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just one box of Total. No other cereal has more.
I think I'll have Total, sweetheart. Total.
If it's whole wheat Total, it's Total Nutrition.
What we call hurricanes are known as typhoons. In the Pacific, Typhoon Ruby smashed through the central Philippines. Today, nearly 100 people are known dead, hundreds more missing from a sunken ferry boat. Wyatt Andrews in Tokyo has our report.
The typhoon hit the Philippines with surprising power, sending gushes of water up to rooftop levels outside Manila and sinking a ferry boat loaded with more than 500 passengers in stormy waters 300 miles southeast of Manila. Officials of the company that owns the ferry said only 15 of the 500 had been rescued, and that even those survivors had been dropped off on remote islands so the rescue ship could return to the search. In the suburbs of Manila, survivors were stranded on the tops of their huts. Clumps of trees became islands, and the islands became platforms for a series of dramatic helicopter rescues. Whole families clung to the rescue ladders for the 200-yard trip to high ground. Here, a single infant, clearly just weeks old and visibly blue from the cold, was rescued alone, but alive. President Corazon Aquino quickly waded into the disaster area, promising $500,000 in aid and ordering the military to distribute packets of food. That will barely touch this problem. Already, 110,000 people are said to be homeless. Crop damage is estimated at more than $45 million, and much of the Philippine rice crop, among the country's most lucrative, lay in the direct path of the typhoon. Worse still, as night fell, there were reports of yet another ferry being sunk and scattered accounts of between 40 and 50 people missing. No one has an accurate count of the human toll here. The 140-mile-per-hour winds of this storm took out the power lines and caused communications blackouts in almost every part of this country of 7,000 different islands. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Tokyo.
A Peruvian airliner crashed shortly after taking off from an airport in the Andes Mountains today. 22 people killed, about 50 injured, many of them badly burned.
When my arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil is the brand many doctors recommend for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. You know, just one Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And Advil doesn't upset my stomach the way aspirin sometimes can. So now, I don't even have to think about arthritis. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
If you thought you had to give up comfort to get a close shave, Norelco says, think again. Their revolutionary shaving system shaves skin close in a way that's incredibly comfortable. As the hair enters the chamber, the patented lift and cut system lifts each hair and holds it a split second before a blade cuts it, so it's possible to shave skin close without the blades even touching the skin. The lift and cut shaving system from Norelco. We made close comfortable.
Because there are places where you can't get something by just pushing a button, the MCI card can be used from any phone in the U.S., push button or rotary, so you're never out of touch, no matter where your business takes you. The MCI card. It is America's business card.
Remember this little number. It's just 150 calories, no fat, and it tastes fabulous. Plus, this little number is going to help me get into this little number.
Yoplait 150, now in vanilla and mixed berry.
Police in South Africa used tear gas to break up a demonstration today by students protesting tomorrow's segregated local elections. Black leaders are calling for a boycott and threatening to disrupt the voting for separate city councils in white, black, mixed race, and Asian areas. Martha Teichner is on the scene.
On the day before South Africa's municipal elections, the kind of mass protest the government tried throughout the campaign to suppress. Students marched through the campus of Johannesburg's University of the Witwatersrand, defying the government's ban on calling for a boycott of the elections. They carried the flag of the outlawed African National Congress. They burned the South African flag. Police responded with tear gas, but under South Africa's press restrictions, we cannot show them to you in action. Overcome, along with other protesters, Winnie Mandela.
This is what the elections are all about, to entrench apartheid. Glorify apartheid.
The government is fighting this, There have been 20 bombs in the streets of South Africa's cities this month, targeted for maximum terror. According to police, they are the work of the anti-apartheid African National Congress to disrupt the elections. Concerned that whites will vote their fears and move even further to the right, the government has gotten tough, jailing more than 300 black activists since September 1st. It has staged a highly visible stop-and-search sweep, a PR move designed to reassure whites. Police hand out leaflets offering a reward for information leading to the arrest of terrorists. The offer expires on Election Day. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Johannesburg.
In this country, 2 Ku Klux Klan groups involved in disrupting a 1987 civil rights march in Georgia found out today what it's going to cost them. Reporter Lynn Brown has our story on taking the profit out of hate.
A federal jury said 2 factions of the Ku Klux Klan and several of its key leaders must pay nearly $1 million for disrupting this civil rights march last year in Forsyth County, Georgia.
This trial has shown these purveyors of hatred that citizens will fight back legally.
Today's verdict is the latest victory for anti-Klan groups that believe the best way to fight the Klan is to hit it where it hurts, in the pocketbook. In a similar case in Alabama last year, $7 million was awarded to the mother of a 19-year-old black man who was strangled and hanged by the Klan.
The message is, if you're going to go out and intimidate people and throw rocks and bottles at them and physically hurt them, then you're going to have to pay for it.
The defendants were quiet about today's verdict, saying only they plan to appeal. But at a rally last weekend, they vowed to continue their message of white supremacy.
We got up there in a federal court and said we don't like niggers, and we're proud of it. The only way to be a good Klansman is be a good racist.
But civil rights groups believe a few more successful lawsuits against the Klan can put it out of business. Lynn Brown, CBS News, Atlanta.
Why do you care what I eat for breakfast?
Maybe we shouldn't discuss this while you're under the influence of sugar and preservatives.
And what should I be influenced by? Nuts and twigs?
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal with no sugar added and no preservatives.
This is much better than I thought.
Yeah, kind of like me.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
Now, try the deliciously different taste of new Nutri-Grain biscuits. The only shredded wheat with no preservatives.
These days, Americans are eating foods that are low in cholesterol. Or are they? Cooked in butter, even these aren't as cholesterol-free as they could be. That's why there's Butter Flavor Pam Cooking Spray. It has a buttery flavor, yet adds no cholesterol. So you can pick foods that are low in cholesterol and keep them that way. Pam, because how you cook is as important as what you cook.
If you used to take capsules, try new extra-strength Tylenol gel caps.
They're gelatin-coated with a concentrated solid center under a smooth gelatin coating, so they're actually easier to swallow. Tylenol gel caps. It's not a capsule. It's better.
We've studied your mouth from every angle and created a toothbrush with a very special angle, the Reach toothbrush, with a dental angle designed to clean even back teeth better, to get your teeth 51% cleaner than the other leading brush. Reach for 51% cleaner teeth.
Well, the theme that dominated today's episode of The Trapped Whales was the Russians are coming. The Russians are here. With their arrival at the northern rim of Alaska, the stage now is set for a climax to this long suspense story. Correspondent David Dow, who is our man on the whale watch, has the latest developments.
The saga of the trapped whales formally went international today with a flight by American rescue officials to 2 newly arrived Soviet icebreakers. They met with the ship's officers to plan what they hope will be a happy ending to the 2-week drama.
Yeah, what about whales here?
Yes. Sometime, probably tomorrow, one of the ships will try to break through a rugged ice ridge 200 yards wide that poses the whale's final barrier to freedom. American experts have explored the ridge, at times within sight of polar bears, and think the Russians can easily crack it.
I would love to hear their reaction when they actually come up to it and see it. They probably think that it's just sandbox, nothing to it.
While the U.S. and Soviet Union work at carving an escape route for the whales, scientists continue working on another problem, coaxing the whales to use the route. Meanwhile, native crews have begun carving a possible detour for the whales around a shallow area that apparently presents a psychological obstacle to them. They encountered it about halfway along a chain of man-made breathing holes that now extends about a third of the way to open water 4 miles away. At times, they've actually retreated, all of which makes U.S. officials especially grateful for the Soviet icebreaker, for the ability to forge an inviting exit to safety.
Sort of like herding cattle or sheep, that we're probably better off to open up the whole barn door. In other words, we're going to kick out the side of the barn rather than open a personnel door for them to get through.
Meanwhile, in Carlsbad, California, a canvas shop continues work on a giant sling strong enough to lift the whales to open sea by helicopter. It would be used only if the Russians fail, and only, say officials, as a last-ditch effort. David Dow, CBS News, Point Barrow, Alaska.
President Reagan was flanked by members of Congress, a crisp fall day, and the National War College at Fort McNair was the backdrop today as he signed into law the election year bill creating the Department of Veterans Affairs. Among other things, this replaces and elevates the Veterans Administration by adding a Secretary of Veterans Affairs to the next president's cabinet.
Choose to make a difference.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. If you can.
Every time you reach for MasterCard from now through December, we'll donate money to 6 worthy causes, and you can help choose where the money goes.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand.
Choose to make a difference. Choose MasterCard.
I have just the thing for that cold.
Most kids think that medicine has to taste bad, but there's one cold medicine that relieves both kids and colds. Dimetap, grape-flavored Dimetap elixir, recommended millions of times by pediatricians and pharmacists. After all, a cold medicine can't work if you can't get it down.
You like Dimetap?
Grape-flavored Dimetap elixir. It relieves kids as well as colds.
You've always trusted Woolite to care for your sweaters. Wouldn't you love to get that same Woolite care for your rugs and for your chairs? Well, try Woolite Deep Cleaning Rug Cleaner and Woolite Upholstery Cleaner. Trust Woolite care for rugs and chairs.
Gas pain, bloating. Gas-X has the strongest, fastest relief ingredient. Painful gas is like beer bubbles. Add the leading antacid. Add Gas-X. Only Gas-X gets rid of the gas. The strongest, fastest reliever for gas pain and bloating. Gas-X.
The final push is on by the presidential candidates to win every last vote they can get. This year, that drive includes having their running mates submit to hard-hitting questions from reporters who are themselves too young to vote, sort of the real boys and girls on the bus. The interviews you are about to see took place recently on the campaign plane of Lloyd Bentsen and the campaign bus of Dan Quayle.
Well, my golly, look who's here. Are you an official member of the press?
Yep.
Good. And you are too?
Yep.
Good for you. We're glad to have you.
Hi, guys.
The reporters are from Children's Express, 13-year-old Jonathan Zachary and 11-year-old Suki Chong, with the campaign last week in downstate Illinois, gathering material for their weekly PBS magazine show. Their colleague, 11-year-old Laurel Barclay, is traveling with Benson. Children reporters. The questions far from childlike, except in the reporter's persistence. The questions and answers are complete, unedited.
Let's suppose that I'm 12 and I was sexually molested by my father and I was sexually molested by my father and I became pregnant. Would you want me to carry that baby to term and have that baby?
It's a difficult question and one that does not have an easy answer, but my answer would be yes.
But don't you think this would ruin my whole life? I mean, it's not even my fault, and my whole life will be ruined. I might have to drop out of school, I'll be ridiculed for the rest of my life, and probably never get a good job.
Well, I don't think that that'd be the case at all. I think if somebody had had an unfortunate experience like that, it would be something that you would remember the rest of your life. I idea of a father abusing a daughter is a horrendous situation, one that you wish that would never occur, but unfortunately it does occur. And what the daughter needs and the young girl is sympathy, counseling, a home. And what the father needs is rather severe punishment and not being allowed to be part of that daughter again. It's a tragic situation.
But it will still have negative psychological effects on me. And what if when I grow up, I become an incestuous mother?
Well, I think that an incestuous relationship would have severe psychological effects on anybody. There's no doubt about it. It's a very tragic personal experience, and the situation is a very dire one, very tough, very troublesome, and we need to try to avoid it as all possible, but unfortunately it happens, and it happens too often in our society.
So you would want me to have the baby even though my whole life could be ruined and I could be mentally affected?
Well, I'm sure that the abuse would be something that would mentally affect you or anybody else. That in and of itself is a very horrendous act and something that we ought to prevent. But no, I would hope that the baby would live.
Why wouldn't you allow me to have the baby? Even if it wasn't my fault that I was pregnant.
I would just like to see the baby to have an opportunity, and if you didn't have a home for it, I would hope that we'd be able to find one for adoption.
So although you're not actually killing me, you would sacrifice my prospects for the future for that baby.
See, I've gotten to know you just a little bit. You're a very strong woman, and you're a strong person. And with the right counseling, the right leadership, and the right support, though this would be a traumatic experience that you would never forget, I think that you would be very successful in life.
One of my colleagues at Children's Express interviewed Senator Quayle, and she asked if she was raped by her father and became pregnant, if she should have the right to have an abortion. And Senator Quayle said, no. How would you answer to that question?
Well, I would say first that I would try very much to discourage an abortion. I believe that adoption is the alternative, and I'm an adopted parent. I have a chosen child, and I'm one that worked for legislation to say that handicapped children who are in foster homes, that Medicaid would be provided for them as they were adopted by some parents, because I felt that would assist and help in getting that handicapped child adopted. So I strongly lean toward that. But finally, I think it has to be a woman's choice. I would hope very much that she would confer with her clergyman, that she would confer at length with her physician before making that kind of a choice. But finally, she makes it.
That's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. We've invited the major presidential and vice presidential candidates to be interviewed live on this broadcast. So tomorrow I'll be reporting from Los Angeles, where we'll have our first interview with Lloyd Bentsen. See you tomorrow. Good night.
This week, let us make your mornings better than ever. Discover what your